And looking at this map, looking at these spawns, going to be rather interesting. Spawning in on the red, on the north side of the map, as the Delhi Sultanate. It is ISanych, and who do we have in the south?
In the south, in blue, playing as the Ottomans, it's NyanRacingCat, the teammate of ISanych. They're both waiting for GG. Got the GG in front of their names there. Immediately going up with the military school, looking to put on that early aggression. And I gotta say, I like it. I like the matchup for the Ottomans right here. I do think that they play well into the Delhi Sultanate just because they're able to put on so much early pressure thanks to those military schools. And yeah, this map generation looking pretty good. I do like this map. But I think just because it's so open, that's also going to play into the favor of the Ottomans as well. So I really like NyanRacingCat here. I mean, for the first 2 minutes of the game anyway.
Yeah, I mean, usually this is a pretty good matchup for the Ottomans, especially how you described it with the military schools. It does go for the military school opening, which I know some people are like, oh, I don't know, like, is the military school worth it? It delays your feudal time, blah, blah, blah. To me, I really do think so, and it's not necessarily because of this spawn. So for NyanRacingCat, he does have some opportunities to just kind of annoy ISanych, especially on this spawn. We have this gold all the way out to the east side, and these berries are a little bit far out to the west also. But the reason I like it a lot is as that spearman comes out, by the time you hit feudal age, and by the time ISanych hits feudal age, you end up having, you know, 2 or 3 spearmen that just end up being annoying. You got to pull the scholar out, you got to heal these villagers so they end up not getting killed, and it forces the Delhi Sultanate to show their hand once they get to feudal age, because they have to build an archery range to combat these spearmen, or these spearmen are just going to rain terror. What does Ottoman do in feudal age? Their military schools just switch them to Sipahi, so they have that little bit of upper hand at that pivotal Delhi time, that early feudal time where they're trying to get map control.
Yeah, it's really great for the Ottomans because you can kind of force your opponent to do what you want them to do just by, you know, really setting up early aggression. There's like this flow chart of decisions that you can force them to make that really puts you in a good position going into the feudal age. And that's, you know, going to be the Delhi Sultanate's weakest point. We saw that in the last game. Delhi Sultanate, they really want to make it up to castle. And they want to do that by getting out onto the map in feudal and getting those sacred sites under their belt. You know, they have a timing that they'd like to hit where they're the most powerful, and especially if they're able to get keeps down using the compound of the defender and get the villager production using village fortresses. There we go. That's going to make them feel good. That's where they want to be. That's where their biggest power spike is right now. And the Ottomans using the early aggression off the back of the military schools are going to make it really difficult for them to make that happen.
Yeah, and this gold is a pivotal point for ISanych as well, as that spearman gets its first attack. Now, these villagers can do 2 different things. They can either move away from the gold, or they can try to attack the spearman. I see a lot of villagers pulling out their shivs and getting antsy with it, but they decide to back off and go in a different direction. Another thing that it does, by disabling that gold mine, is very important to ISanich's choice in landmark. ISanych going with the Tower of Victory. He's not going with the Dome of the Faith, so those scholars are at full price of 130 gold. He's not able to get any kind of scholar production in that early feudal area, so it makes those feudal fights that much harder. And ISanych needs his landmark to give him this attack speed boost, whereas the Ottomans just make a meter and they get it for free.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the meter can be sniped, and it's a pretty fragile unit, so that is something to consider in the middle of those fights. A lot of times, I actually like to, when playing as the Ottomans, make a second meter. I know a lot of people think that's a little bit, like, overkill, but it's really nice to be able to have one in production, and then it just pops right out, and, you know, you've got that backup there just in case you need it.
Yeah, and sometimes it's nice, I mean, for the meter anyway, having a second one, obviously, so the first one doesn't get sniped. And also, I mean, you can just make one of your military schools pump out meters instead of Sipahi, so you always have one, or you could always have 2 in just about every fight. And it's very cost efficient because of how expensive the meta is. Now, ISanych going with a stable first. And for Tower of Victory build, sometimes I see a stable. Most of the time I don't, just because the attack speed goes for infantry, not so much for a horseman. And especially with that military school opening of NyanRacingCat having 3 spearmen on the map already. I'm not sure that horseman is going to do much in the way of getting map control for him.
No, especially because horsemen are not the greatest at raiding. They're okay when you get a handful of them, but at only 9 damage a stab, it takes them a while to work down a villager, gives you ample time to react and kind of make things happen. So you're gonna not be able to do a whole lot in terms of raiding, and not going to be able to do a whole lot in terms of the spearmen, which you have to know that the Ottomans are going to be producing, because that's the only thing they can make in the Dark Age. So they always get out at least a handful of them. So I can recognize where he's coming from, right? We were talking about how the Ottomans, they kind of force you to do what they want using that flowchart of decisions. ISanych is kind of trying to fight against that. He goes, no, I'm not going to make archers, because I know you want to build Sipahi and just kill my archers with them. So I'm going to make horsemen, because I control my own destiny. And I can respect that, but it is going to make his life a little bit difficult in terms of dealing with these spearmen and also any potential raids, just because horsemen just don't do a whole ton of damage.
Yeah, and we saw that pretty much illustrated. I mean, some of these villagers on Stone Mine for NyanRacingCat only got 1 hit, and a lot of them are at 41 out of 50 health. Didn't really do much in terms of change their trajectory of how they did things. They continued to get stone to get that second military school up. And NyanRacingCat using his first Vizier point on the meta. And I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so everybody can hear the wonderful sound of music that this game has to offer.
Oh yeah, it's so good. I love the sound of the music and just the sound design in general in this game. It's probably the best part of like the whole package in terms of the experience for me. I would give every single person who worked on the sound design for Age of Empires 4 a raise if I were Relic or Microsoft or whoever, because they killed it with this game.
Oh yeah, even the soundtrack too, how it changes from different ages. Oh my god, it's fantastic. But First Blood coming out for ISanych, those horsemen, now that they're in a pack of 3, can pull a little bit of a raid off, can pack a little bit more of a punch. And they will be trying to get some of that wood line down in the south, which is very important for the Ottomans. On the flip side, ISanych trying to get some sacred sites going. Sanctity is in for him, that middle sacred site trying to get captured, and I think with NyanRacingCat's army retreating, ISanych is going to be able to really get this one.
I'm a little interested in what NyanRacingCat has been spending his money on, because he doesn't, it's not like he's floating a whole ton of food. He's not trying to go up to Castle Age. He's not thrown down a second town center, and yet he has such a smaller military compared to his opponent. Like, where did all the money go? You know, that's just my big, I guess he must have just built some military and lost it somewhere along the way, but yeah, he just doesn't look in a very strong position right now. I thought he would be looking a little bit better than this.
Yeah, and that's one of the real good tools of the Ottomans, because the military schools, the fact that, well, one, they're free, so you're always going to have some extra resources, and secondarily, you're always going to be in constant production. NyanRacingCat just starting to get his first archery range out, which will benefit him a little bit, but based on ISanich's army composition, it's pretty much, you know, horsemen and archers, so maybe those archers for Ottomans might not be as good, but he's trying to get a little bit of map control back with how much Sipahi he has. NyanRacingCat having 10 with 3 in the queue. That's a big chunk of ISanich's archer mass that ends up going down. Now he's got 10 around the map.
Yeah, and those Sipahi will eat these archers alive, and they'll even trade positively against the horsemen. So until there are some spearmen pulled out here for the Delhi Sultanate, Sipahi will rule the day across the map here, and that may have been where all this production has gone. We spent a lot of time getting stables up, getting a lot of these slightly expensive Sipahi underway, but now that they're on the map, that should make NyanRacingCat feel pretty good, because he can pretty much kill everything that the Delhi Sultanate normally like to make.
Yeah, and it looks like he would be able to do that effectively just based on what he has over here. And you did talk about the Sipahi trading well into the horsemen. A lot of times that's because the meta is there. It works on horsemen too, whereas the Tower of Victory does not. And now we have a battle over the second sacred site in the center. Hotly contested. Sipahi being around some of those Delhi archers on the western side of this battle, and some archers end up going down. But ISanych able to hold his own just because of the sheer amount that he has, more of a quantity over quality here. Military count, even though Nyan has defender's advantage, going largely in favor of ISanych. NyanRacingCat has to back up, again with a military count down by 9, 21 to 12 in favor of ISanych.
He did use the Vizier point to pick up the Imams, which I love. I think that's a fantastic choice. Going to give that big AoE form of healing and an early way to pick up, can't pick them up, but you can get out onto the map with them to get relics and sacred sites once you do reach the castle age. So I think that's a really great way to kind of fight against... What? Did we pause? Do you have a pause?
No, mine's still going.
Oh, interesting. My game has paused? Yeah, it's not frozen. I can... Interesting.
Is it still moving?
Anyway. Can
you play it?
I can hear sound. I can click. I can pause. I can leave. But the game itself has frozen. Oh, and we're back.
Oh,
I can now see.
So, at the 11.5 minute mark, NyanRacingCat getting that snowball, that Ottoman snowball, trying to turn into an avalanche, continuously producing, getting his Sipahi on the south side. A good raid by ISanych, taking down what looks like this outpost with 5 villagers inside. Spearmen trying to come down as reinforcements, but this north is really what Nyan's trying to face. He's got this archer mass in the sights from ISanych, and here we have Imams, we have Spearmen and Sipahi, so we have a rock, paper, scissors over an essentially paper and scissors. This doesn't look great in terms of ISanych, not really that good of a battle. The archers are trying to pick off some of these Imams. One Imam goes down, but because you're trying to pick off the Imam, you're not picking off the Spearmen. And a lot of the horsemen for ISanych end up going down. Pretty much all of them do. Convincing battle for NyanRacingCat, a convincing win. The horsemen that were raiding down south have to come back north. And now for the Delhi Sultanate, one of the things, they have to go out and get some outside food resources, like we saw ISanych have such a big problem with against GUA in his Holy Roman Empire. But now ISanych moving out to all of these areas, getting raided again. This feels like deja vu.
I love that move from NyanRacingCat. He ran his horsemen away from the wounded, exposed Delhi Sultanate villagers so that he could go raid the empty berries. That was great.
And here we're gonna see ISanych a lot of idle time that he obviously doesn't know is going to happen. Puts a mill down by NyanRacingCat's deer patch. However, there's already an outpost going up for the cat, so these villagers are going to end up getting killed if they're not careful. And hopefully one of them is paying attention as a raid is going on for NyanRacingCat up on the north side. Picked off a couple villagers, going to pick off maybe 1 or 2 more with that outpost, but huge amount of idle time. We have neutralization on the western sacred site for NyanRacingCat. Now ISanych, he's at 0 gold per minute. He's got to be making scholars to help out with some of these fights, but this is kind of where the Ottoman avalanche kind of starts. They win that first battle, then all of a sudden it's game over.
Yeah, I really want to go back and talk about that fight that we had just a little bit ago, kind of outside the town center, because that was just incredibly well done from the Ottomans. We talked about the Sipahi being kind of the hard counter to almost everything that ISanych wants to run, and the Imam Vizier point made everything so tanky and forced the archers to shoot at something else that wasn't the military units, and that meant that the Delhi Sultanate going into that fight had the army count advantage. They had something like 1.5 times the number of military that the Ottomans did, but the quality of the fight and just the units themselves was so high that the Ottomans came out with a huge lead in there, and that's really put the Sultanate on the back foot now. ISanych, not with a great weight and able to get this, all of his food that he's trying to gather out on the map is once again being kind of pushed and contested and put under threat. And NyanRacingCat doing a similar thing as we saw GUA do in the last game, which is just continuing to make sure that these villagers cannot take the food that they want to take safely. And that puts the Delhi Sultanate in a rough position in terms of trying to get up to Castle Age or continue military production or anything they want to do. If you can't keep that food coming in, then your game just goes from bad to worse.
Yeah, and it kind of makes me wonder why ISanych chose to take these deer patches instead of the berry bushes behind that were a little bit safer. I mean, he's going out to some really far outstretched battle, and here we have another battle with a military count 53-36 in favor of NyanRacingCat. Again, we're seeing some rock, paper, scissors. Not many spearmen coming out for the Delhi Sultanate. Easily picked off. We do have some spearmen still trying to battle some horsemen. Sipahi get a little bit of a wraparound, especially on the east end of that front. Archers taking down a lot of those scholars. There are no scholars left in this battle. There's no units left in this battle for ISanych. He knows he cannot compete with that Ottoman avalanche, and NyanRacingCat got to take this one.
That was, I felt like deja vu. I felt like I was watching a shorter, albeit very similar game to the one right before that. The victory condition was easily recognizable for NyanRacingCat. He goes, how do I beat the Delhi Sultanate? I fight them in feudal. I make sure they cannot take any of that exposed food safely, and I make sure that those sacred sites get neutralized as soon as they come up. And that just felt, it felt clean. It felt clinical. I felt like I was watching the same game as we just watched. ISanych picking the Delhi twice in a row, and it not really going well for him either time.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's kind of textbook of how the Ottomans are supposed to play against the Delhi. I mean, you saw Delhi's efficient production kind of stand out a little bit, especially in that 8 to 10 minute mark. However, it didn't translate to a lot of map control. It didn't translate to sacred site control going up to Castle Age.
Oh my goodness.
Are
you looking at the... Sorry. I was just going to say, are you looking... Do you still have the graphs up?
I do, yes.
Look at the military count graph around the 12-minute mark. That was when that fight happened right outside the Delhi Sultanate base of ISanych.
Yep. Look
at how badly that fight went for him.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it was just ISanich's composition, right? I mean, NyanRacingCat brought everything, and for the Ottomans, you're able to do that. You have military schools producing Sipahi. You can get your archery ranges, and you know they're relatively inexpensive, so you're able to do that. Has some spearmen that are relatively inexpensive too. ISanych didn't have the capability of doing that, and it shows the power of Ottoman imams and feudal also. Crazy.
We want to thank our MetaPlace website subscribers. Your contribution helps us keep the project sustainable. As we reach higher subscription goals, you are helping us cover more and more behind-the-scenes costs, such as video editing. Check out our subscription page using the link in the description, and remember to collect your perks. We will see you the next time.